Hi again, Marcy Davis here from Quick Start Piano, where adults learn by playing the music they love most. And today we've got another video for brand new beginners to help you start playing your favorite songs as soon as possible. And we will be using primary chords today. If you haven't heard of primary chords, don't worry about it. I'll walk you through each hand shape step by step. Let's take a look.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about primary chords. Primary chords are super useful, and for us pianists that will translate as hand shapes on the piano. You just have 3 hand shapes to work with and you'll be able to play hundreds, maybe even thousands of songs once you learn those. Now, if you have not already seen the video on home bass chords, I would definitely check that out first, because that will make this one a little bit easier. The primary chords are used a little bit more in more traditional music, hymns, Christmas carols, folk tunes, that kind of thing. The home bass chords are used a little bit more in contemporary music, pop, rock, that sort of thing. And it's not that we don't use them in either genre, it's just they're used a little bit differently. They're still really useful though. So let's take a look. We're going to start off in a C home bass. And again, if you haven't studied about home bass, I'd go back to that other video. We've got it listed in the description. So we're going to start with the C home chord. And then the next shape, I call an up shape because both of the top 2 fingers move up. And we're just playing the outside notes there. So we call that a chord shell. Again, we'll start with home, and then back to up, then back to home. And then the next shape we'll call a down shape because both lower 2 fingers are going to go down. So with the C home, you've got the outside notes of the C home bass, C and G. Then you move the top fingers up, but you keep the C below. So C and A for the up shape, then back to home. Then the down shape, you're going to keep the G and move the other fingers down to B. Back to home. So let me show you how this would play out in real music. I'm going to pick a well-known tune, Jingle Bells, here, and I will be playing home, down, and up on this hand. Then up, down, sorry, down, home, up, go. And that will play out over and over and over again. Here's an example of a simple hymn. God is so good. The idea is to get these shapes into your muscle memory so you just do them automatically and you don't have to think about them. That gives you brain space to think about other things. So let's think about how you can use these when you're looking at your own music and your own chord charts. You're never going to see home, up, and down on a chord chart. That's specific to piano and probably to my teaching style because I thought that up. Some other teacher somewhere has probably used it, but you're not going to see it. So let's decipher how you would plug that in. Let's say you saw the chord chart for God is So Good, and it would use a C and an F and a G. So we already know that the C is the home chord. And then the key to figuring this out is if you count up your scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, any chord named after the 4th note, F, is going to use an up shape. And any chord named after the 5th note will be using the down shape. This one's kind of more obvious because that down shape actually uses the G. The F with the up shape is less obvious, and that's because I haven't told you yet that the missing note for that chord is an F. So let's say I'm watching the God is So Good lead sheet and I see a C chord, so I'm going to play a C home bass. And then I see a G chord, so I'm going to play a down. And then a C, back to home bass. Now I see an F, so I'll do an up, and then a C. And you can use that to figure out chord charts in other keys as well. You just have to make sure that you've got your scale Correct. You've got all the black notes in there. So for example, with F, we have a black note right here, and you can hear it. If you leave it out, that sounds funny. So if you try to build a chord on this note, the whole song is going to be off. Plus, you won't see it in the chord chart. What you'll see is the B flat. So let's try that same song again. So we've got an F, and then a C chord, then F, and then we'll see the B flat chord. I apologize, I added a few extra notes in there. So if you are brand new and this is the first time you've really done chord shells and the home up and down, I would stop right now and go back and practice those. And what I'm going to do for those of you with a little more experience is I'm going to show you how to add in those middle notes. Before we do that, let's talk about if you're taking your basic chord shell into a different key. Let's go to the key of D, how about? So I'm not even going to put the middle notes in yet. And maybe I want to play God Is So Good in this key. You want to make sure if you're doing an up that it goes up 2 keys. We call that a whole step. So from here to here. And then on the down, it's only 1 key, which is a half step. And then the other thing is you want to make sure if you're playing the melody that you've got the notes right. And obviously that one too. So let's try that again. Only a half step down there. Whole step. And this can come in very handy if you're playing with, say, a guitarist who needs to play in the key of E, but you learned it in the key of C. It's just a matter of taking your hands up here, making sure you go up far enough, a whole step, and then down, only a half step. And voila, you have transposed it into the key of E from the key of C. Okay, now let's take a look at those middle notes that we were talking about. Back in the key of C, you probably already learned this if you watched the initial video on chords in home bass. So we've got C, E, G, those are all 3 notes. If that is uncomfortable to do all together, I would leave them out or play it in a pattern like this. It can tend to turn beginners' hands into a claw to try to play them all at once. But if it's comfortable and you can play it in a relaxed way, there's the entire C chord, C, E, G. Now let's take a look at our up shape. The missing note, as we talked about, is F. And you want to make sure that you use your second finger on the left hand because it was already in that position and your thumb can easily stretch. On the right hand, you don't want to do that to your fingers. So our hand is going to stretch and use the third finger. So you notice we have a third finger on one hand and a second finger on the other. So let's try that again. Home bass going up to the up shape, which is also an F chord. And then back down to home bass, and now we're going to do the down shape. We know that these are the outside notes, and the missing note is a D. And again, I'm going to use my second finger where it was in home bass because that's a very easy stretch right there. But on this one, I'm not going to leave this on home bass because that is super awkward on my tiny fingers. And again, you have one hand doing 3 and one hand doing 2. So except for on a home bass chord, that's going to be true. You'll have 2 different fingers in the middle. That's one way you can check yourself. So there you have it, some different ways to practice primary chords. Make sure to go back to the basics if this is too difficult. Again, we're trying to build muscle memory, so it's better to get things easy and automatic and just do a little bit at a time, and then later add more difficulty on top of it. And you can see more of these in our Basics for Beginners videos. Let me know your thoughts. As you're practicing these, you can leave me a note in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.